You're delirious with fever and covered with burning rashes and gangrene sores. You're dying of the plague. Does a cure lie in bloodletting? Or would the raging inferno of London's Great Fire be a blessing in disguise? London, 1664. An epidemic so fierce, so relentless, it spreads through the city, destroying all life in its path. Corpses line city streets. Infants pass directly to the grave. Newlyweds bury their spouses. Who could possibly measure the suffering? The plague claimed its first victim in the freezing December of 1664. Deaths caused by the notorious disease were not unusual. A few individuals perished each year, so the new reports failed to alarm the public. However, as the weeks and months passed and the warm spring of 1665 approached, the people's worst fears were confirmed. The plague had arrived with a vengeance. Although London's last major outbreak in 1625 claimed the lives of 40,000 people, the short life expectancy of the average man or woman meant that few people could forewarn younger generations. Instead, memories of the plague were kept luridly alive by the colorful storytelling and rich folklore of the age. Terror soon gripped the population as more and more people, day by day, fell prey to the contagious infection. Of course, London today and 17th century London are two vastly different places. First, the city in the mid-1600s was much smaller. Its boundaries at the time stretched from the River Thames in the south to Ludgate in the west and from Aldersgate in the north to the Tower in the east. Residential areas included such places as Southwark, Westminster, and the Strand. North of the city, Islington and Clerkenwell were idyllic getaways, surrounded by rolling meadows, worlds away from today's thunder of traffic and commerce. London was England's largest city in the middle of the 17th century. About 1 million residents squeezed into urban neighborhoods, sometimes 4 or 5 families to a dwelling. Industry dominated the area to the north of the Thames, where urban squalor was at its worst. Timber-framed houses, packed tightly together, overhung narrow, unlit cobbled streets filled with trash. The government had not yet developed public sanitation, so the stench of open sewers mixed with the fumes of black smoke that belched from the chimneys of the soap boilers and the brewers. Rats and mice ran rampant, and the street gutters were channeled directly into the River Thames, the same place where most people drew their water for drinking and washing. Standards of personal hygiene were extremely low. Poor people were covered in filth, and even those slightly better off, with their fashionable wigs, were besieged by lice. Illness and sickness were common because there was no understanding of how cleanliness could prevent disease. Even educated men could not comprehend the fact that microscopic germs and bacteria could be the source of their misery. Consequently, most ordinary people believed the plague was divine retribution for their earthly sins. God-fearing people, superstitious and wary of old wives' tales, looked for signs from God. Coincidentally, a brilliant comet over London warned the people of disaster and tragedy. Some even believed that foreign enemies or religious followers whom they despised, the Jews, the Roman Catholics, or the Dutch, were responsible for the rapid spread of the disease. Patients complained of swollen lymph nodes in their armpits and groin, high fever, and rashes that quickly turned to gangrene. What caused the plague remained a mystery, but its results were all too obvious and filled its victims with dread. The diarist Samuel Pepys, whose writings painted a vivid picture of life in the Stuart period, remembered how citizens first became ill.
Thursday, June the 7th. With the mighty heat of the afternoon, I stayed walking in the garden until 12 at night. This day I did in Drury Lane see 2 or 3 houses marked with a red cross, and "Lord, have mercy upon us," writ there. This was a sad sight for me, being the first of that kind which, to my conception, I ever saw. It put into me an ill conception of myself and my smell, so that I was forced to buy some rolled tobacco to smell and chew. Saturday, June the 17th. It struck me very deep this afternoon, going with a hackney coach from my Lord Treasurer's to Holborn. The coachman did seem to drive slower and slower, and at last stood still. He got down, hardly able to stand, and told me that he was suddenly struck, very sick, and almost blind, and he could not see. So I alighted and went into another coach, with a sad heart for the poor man, and trouble for myself, lest he be struck with the plague. God have mercy upon us all.
Many doctors fled London, but some stayed, despite their limited knowledge and the dangers of infection. They wore a frightening uniform that supposedly protected them against the disease. The gloves and hat were made of leather, and the hideous beak contained spices or perfumes. The overcoat was made of waxed cloth, and they carried a stick to drive people away. Obviously, the doctor's arrival did little to comfort the victims or their distressed families. There was nothing the plague doctors could do except perform traditional bloodletting. Doctors cut open veins or applied leeches to correct the balance of humors in the body, the 4 liquids thought to be linked with the elements: black bile with the earth, yellow bile with fire, phlegm with water, and blood with air. Let blood in cases of great distress until patient faints, ordered one doctor, believing that balance of humors was restored and the patient would soon be on the road to recovery. Powdered bones, frogs, snakes, all were prescribed ingredients in noxious potions designed to make victims vomit. Heated cloth, spread with bran or clay, was applied to inflamed sores. Of course, none of these cures proved effective, and the desperate people soon turned to the growing number of quack doctors, who promoted their cure-all medicines and sold them at astronomical prices. Disgusted by these opportunists, Dr. Nathaniel Hodges wrote,
"Nothing contributed more to the common destruction, more than the practice of chemists and quacks, and of whose audacity and ignorance it is impossible to be altogether silent. They were indefatigable in spreading their anecdotes, and although equal strangers to all learning as well as physic, they thrust into every hand some trash or other, under the disguise of a pompous title. No country, surely, ever abounded with such wicked impostors. For all events contradicted their pretensions, and hardly a person escaped that trusted to their delusions. Their medicines were more fatal than the plague, and added to the numbers of the dead. But these blowers of the pestilential flame were caught in the common ruin, and by their death, in some measure excused the magistrates in suffering their practice.
Faithfully recorded bills of mortality reflect the awful effect the plague had upon the population. Published weekly, these depressing documents informed citizens of the death toll and exactly how and where their friends and relatives were disposed of. The figures were grim. Nearly 50% of those infected died of the disease. During the week beginning September 19th, 1665, 7,165 people died. The previous week, 6,978. The plague raged uncontrollable during the sweltering months of summer. TLC Presents will return to Britain's Fire and Fever.
Do you need a miracle in your life? Turn to the Learning Channel for an inspiring series, Miracles and Other Wonders, Saturdays at 9 on TLC.
Important news from Cardism CD.
Ready for our walk?
Yes. Where did this come from?
Oh, that's the Cardisense newsletter. It's free with my Cardism CD prescription.
This article on walking is really interesting.
Yeah, we're exercising more and eating better.
Ask your doctor about Cardism CD and the Cardisense newsletter and call 1-800-664-9500 for one free copy of Cardisense. Cardism CD and Cardisense.
We're not stopping, we're not stopping.
What caused an elevator to plunge 22 stories? A team of researchers goes back to the scene of some very strange catastrophes to find out what happened. Saturday at 10 on TLC.
I'm Jackie Joyner Kersey, and I have asthma, but it hasn't kept me from setting 4 world records because I control my asthma every day. And even if you think you have your asthma under control, you should call the Asthma Control Program from Glaxo Wellcome. They'll send you a free kit full of the latest information to help you understand and manage your asthma better. You'll get lots of useful tools, including a 4-step program that can help you prevent attacks before they occur. And best of all, you'll receive updated information as soon as it's available.
Many asthma patients, including you, can become symptom-free if you follow the daily treatment plan your doctor prescribes. And the Asthma Control Program from Glaxo Wellcome can help. So call 1-800-873-9334 right now.
The sooner you get with the program and stick with the program, the sooner you can take control of your asthma. I don't let asthma control my life, and you don't have to let it control yours either.
Britain's Fire and Fever now returns on TLC Presents. London now faced near annihilation. Panicked citizens began to unite to try to protect the healthy and aid the stricken. Sir William Lawrence, the Lord Mayor of London, appointed officials to carry out dismal tasks. Examiners labeled plague-infested homes with a red cross, while watchmen quarantined the homes by standing guard day and night. Searchers and surgeons earned a fortune, 1 groat per corpse, for ascertaining the cause of death, while corpse bearers collected the dead in open carts. They clattered through the streets only at night, and once full, they drove their carts to the city's outskirts, where they dumped the bodies in one of the great plague pits. Here, the unidentified were covered in quicklime, only to await the next layer of corpses. Relatives and friends were even denied the opportunity to visit these pits before, during, or after the burial. Daniel Defoe, in his famous Diary of a Plague Year, described a plague pit in the later outbreak in 1722.
The cart had in it 16 or 17 bodies. Some were wrapped in linen sheets, some in rugs, and others were little other than naked, or so loose that what covered them fell from them in the shooting of the cart, and they too fell naked among the rest. Not that the matter mattered much to them, or the indecency much to anyone else, for they were dead, and were soon to be huddled together in the common grave of mankind, as we may call it. For here, there was no difference made, but the rich and the poor went together, where there was no other way of burials. Neither was it possible there should be coffins, for there were none to be had for the prodigious numbers which fell in a great calamity such as this.
For 8 straight months in 1655, the dead carts journeyed through the streets of London, carting away countless bodies.
The number of the sextons was not sufficient to bury the dead. The bells seemed hoarse with continuous ringing. The burying places would not hold the dead, but they were thrown into large pits dug in waste grounds, in heaps 30 or 40 together. And it often happened that those that tended the funerals of their friends one evening were carried the next to their own long home. Some of the infected ran about staggering like drunken men and fell and expired in the streets. Others fell dead in the market, where they were buying the necessities for the support of life. Others lie half dead and comatose, never to be waked but by the last trumpet. Some lie vomiting as if they had drunk poison. The divine was taken in the very exercise of his priestly office, to be enrolled among the saints above. And some physicians could not find assistance in their own antidotes, but died in the administration of them to others. Many of their old age, others in their prime, slunk under its cruelties. Of the female sex, most died, and hardly any children escaped. And it was not uncommon to see an inheritance pass successively to 3 or 4 heirs in as many days. Nor in this are we to neglect that the contagion spread into the neighboring countries. For the citizens, which crowded in multitudes into the adjacent towns, carried the infection along with them, where it raged with equal fury. So that the plague, that once crept from street to street, now reigned over whole counties, leaving hardly any place free from its insults. Such was the rise, and such was the progress of this cruel destroyer that first began in London. This calamity melts me into tears. And as yet the worst was not certain, although the city was near drained by her funerals, for the disease as yet had no relaxation.
TLC Presents will return to Britain's Fire and Fever.
I wish we were at Disney World. Me too. I do.
Wishing alone may not make their dream come true, but calling 1-800-891-WISH for this free video can. Call today and we'll send a bit of Walt Disney World right to your home in a vacation planning video designed for your family. It'll show you how to plan the perfect Disney World vacation so you can do all you want to do, all within your budget. Find out how to stay at a Disney resort for as low as $69 a night, how to get into the theme parks an hour early, and more.
I really wish we were at Disney World. Me too. I really do.
Call now and get big savings on a complete vacation package. The video is free, but only for a limited time.
Are you wishing? Yes. Can you wish a little harder?
So pick up the phone to order your free video. Call 1-800-891-WISH and make the dream come true.
They're mixed up, They're violent, but the kids.
Do teenage killers deserve our mercy, or are they not too young to die? You decide. Sunday at 9 on TLC. They claimed it was a weather balloon, but the people who were there tell a different story. Now, in an exclusive investigation, we'll get to the bottom of one of the strangest stories ever told. Roswell, Sunday at 10 on TLC.
Britain's Fire and Fever now returns on TLC Presents. Finally, as the plague raged out of control, the Lord Mayor of London issued new orders to clean up the filthy streets and keep the air sweet-smelling. He even contracted teams of men to exterminate more than 60,000 cats and dogs, which were roaming the streets and feeding on piles of trash. Tales of immoral and evil behavior spread through neighborhoods ravaged by the disease. No one in 1665, young, old, rich or poor, could escape its consequences. Some parents abandoned their sick children. Others stole clothes